Imagine finding a single penny in your old coin jar, the kind you almost throw away without a second glance, only to realize it's worth more than a mansion. Yes, you heard that. Read a single cent that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. One particular coin, the 1964 Lincoln penny, has stunned collectors and investors alike with its unbelievable value. Some versions of this coin have recently been appraised for as much as $888,000. Could one of these rare treasures be sitting quietly in your home right now? Let's take a journey, because this story isn't just about a coin. It's about opportunity, timing, and recognizing value when no one else can see it. The year was 1964. The world was changing. The Beatles invaded America. Color TV was becoming the new normal. And the United States Mint in Denver was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. To most people, these coins were just pocket change. Simple copper pieces with the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing special. But hidden among those billions, a few were different. A few were extraordinary now. Here's where things get fascinating. The 1964 penny struck in Denver, as indicated by the tiny D mint mark below the year, wasn't supposed to be special. Yet certain examples from that year have become the stuff of legend. Due to rare minting errors, die varieties, and in some cases, experimental compositions. Handful of these coins stand apart from the rest. We're talking about misstruck coins, doubled die obverses, and even transitional metal errors that defy the normal copper-zinc standards. Why does this matter? Because a mistake at the mint, invisible to the untrained eye, can transform a 1-cent coin into a fortune now. Think about that for a moment. How many pennies have you handled in your lifetime? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And yet, one of them, just one, could hold the key to generational wealth. It's a thrilling thought, isn't it? That something so small could be so powerful. Let's dig deeper into why the 1964 Lincoln penny has collectors trembling with excitement. To understand its worth, you need to know what makes it so rare. First, the minting process itself. The Denver Mint produced over 3 billion pennies that year. So rarity doesn't come from scarcity alone, comes from imperfection. In a few cases, the dies used to strike the coins were misaligned or doubled, creating subtle but significant errors. Some have doubled dates. Others feature distorted lettering in the words "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." These are not mere curiosities. They're numismatic gold. One of the most valuable examples discovered was a 1964 penny, struck on a silver planchetta left over blank. From a dime production. Imagine that, a penny struck on silver instead of copper. When this was authenticated by professional grading services, the coin sold for an astonishing amount, close to $900,000. That's right. A single mistake at the mint created a coin now worth as much as a luxury home in Malibu. Now here's where it gets emotional. Many of the people who discover these rare coins aren't wealthy collectors or investors. They're ordinary Americans. Someone cleaning out a parent's coin jar. a retiree rolling spare change for the bank, a young adult exploring a childhood piggy bank. It's the everyday person who often stumbles upon the extraordinary dot. Picture this. You find a 1964 penny. Notice the D mint mark and start to wonder. You pull out a magnifying glass. The color seems off. The weight feels slightly different. Could it be? Your heart races. Your hands shake. You compare it to online photos and your jaw drops. It matches a high-value variant. You send it to a professional grading service and the confirmation arrives. You're holding a life-changing fortune in your hand. Now tell me, what would you do with nearly $1 million from a single coin? Pay off debt. Buy your dream home. Finally, take that luxury vacation you've been putting off for years. The possibilities are limitless. But before we get carried away, here's a sobering truth. Millions of these pennies still circulate unnoticed. Every year, people unknowingly spend, lose, or discard coins that could be worth life-changing sums. Imagine the pain of realizing that the penny you used to pay for coffee was actually worth more than your car. That's the kind of oversight we want to help you avoid. And here's where urgency enters the picture. As more of these coins are discovered and authenticated, fewer remain in circulation. The market value skyrockets because supply shrinks. What's worth $800,000 today could surpass $1 million tomorrow. So if you've ever thought about checking your change, your drawers, your jars, the tars, the time is now. Act 3. The transformation. This isn't just about finding rare coins. It's about cultivating the mindset of discovery, seeing value where others see none. Because that's how wealth is truly created. Whether it's coins, collectibles, or investments, the pattern is the same. Fortune favors the curious, the persistent, and the informed. Now, let's get practical. How can you tell if your 1964 D penny might be valuable? First, examine the mint mark carefully. Look for doubling around the date or lettering. Second, weigh the coin. A standard 1964 D penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. If yours weighs significantly less or appears silverish, you might have a rare transitional error potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Third, consult a professional grading service like PCGs or NGC. Authentication and grading can turn a suspicious coin into a verified treasure. Here's a bit of humor to lighten things up. People say money doesn't grow on trees, but apparently it hides in your pocket change. Somewhere in America right now, someone's cleaning out their car, vacuuming under the seats, and unknowingly sucking up a fortune. Don't be that person. Check every coin before it disappears forever. The story of the 1964 D. Lincoln penny isn't just a story about money. It's a reminder of how overlooked opportunities can change lives. Every great fortune starts with curiosity, and every legacy begins with a single decision to look closer. So, if you're watching this video right now, take it as your sign. Go through your old coins. Search your drawers, your jars, your boxes in the attic. You never know what might be waiting for you. Because here's the twist: people are finding valuable coins every single week. Auctions are breaking records. Collectors are paying premiums never seen before. And with inflation and global interest in numismatics on the rise, the next few years could be the golden era for coin discovery. And now, the cliffhanger you've been waiting for. You might think the 1964 D penny is rare enough, but what if I told you there's another version, even more valuable, hiding in plain sight? A version so scarce that experts debate whether more than a handful exists at all. It's a coin that could redefine the market, and we'll reveal everything about it in our next episode. Before we wrap up, let's reflect on something deeper. The true power of this story isn't just financial light's inspirational. It's proof that wealth doesn't always come from starting with millions. Sometimes it begins with noticing the overlooked, valuing the undervalued, and believing that luck favors those who prepare. So, let me ask you this. What if your wealth, your freedom, your breakthrough has been sitting right under your nose this entire time? What if the penny you dismissed could be the one that changes everything? Don't wait. Don't assume. Take action today. Examine your coins, educate yourself, and remember, history rewards the curious. Because while others see just another penny, you might see a masterpiece in copper, and who knows? The next millionaire coin collector could be you. Stay tuned. Subscribe for our upcoming deep dive into the ultra-rare variations of the 1964 D and other Lincoln cents worth unimaginable sums. Until then, keep searching, keep believing, and never underestimate the power of a single penny to change your life forever. Let's begin at the heart of this incredible story, the 1969D Lincoln cent. Most Americans have seen a penny like this thousands of times. It's the classic design featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. It weighs just over 3 grams, made primarily of copper, and to most people, looks no different from the billions of others produced that same year. But among these billions, a few extraordinary specimens exist. Coins struck with rare errors or unique characteristics that turn them into treasures of staggering value. Now, before we dive into the details of what makes one of these pennies so valuable, let me ask you something. Have you ever cleaned out an old drawer, found a handful of coins, and thought, maybe I should check if any of these are worth something? Well, you're not alone. Every day, people across America discover coins worth thousands or even millions without ever realizing it at first. The 1969 penny is one of those coins that has transformed ordinary people into the lucky few who stumbled onto wealth hiding in plain sight. But what makes this tiny copper disc so special? Why would anyone pay nearly $1 million for it? Let's uncover the mystery. In 1969, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. But some of these coins weren't ordinary. A very small number of them were struck with what's called a doubled die obverse. That means during the minting process, the coin die, the tool that stamps the design, shifted slightly between strikes. The result? The coin's inscriptions, like Liberty and In God We Trust, appear doubled, crisp, and clearly visible even to the naked eye. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Most 1969 double-die pennies were struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark, but a few rare ones were produced in Denver bearing that tiny D below the date-hand. These are the ones that collectors go absolutely wild for. Imagine this. You could hold a penny that looks just like any other, but under magnification. You'd see those doubled letters leaping off the surface. Proof of a minting error so rare it shouldn't even exist. That's the beauty and the thrill of coin collecting. Sometimes history makes a mistake, and that mistake can make you rich. Now, let's talk numbers in pristine condition. A 1969 D double-die Lincoln cent has been auctioned for eye-watering amounts. In one case, collectors have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single coin. And the market today. The most recent high-grade specimen was valued at an astonishing $182,000. That's not a typo. $882,000 for a coin that cost 1 cent to make. But here's where the story takes a turn, and where fear and excitement begin to intertwine. For every genuine 1969 D double-die penny, there are countless counterfeits. Scammers have flooded online marketplaces with fake versions, hoping to trick unsuspecting sellers. It's a sobering reminder, when the stakes are this high, caution is priceless. Authenticating your coin is the difference between a life-changing discovery and a costly disappointment. So how do you know if yours is real? Start with the lettering. Look at Liberty and In God We Trust. If the doubling is clear and distinct like a shadow perfectly aligned with each letter, you may have something extraordinary. But if it looks blurry or shallow, it's likely a fake. The next step is professional verification. Major grading companies like PCGZs or NGC can authenticate your coin and assign it a grade, which directly affects its market value. Without that certification, even a rare coin can lose much of its potential worth. Let's imagine for a moment that you do have one of these elusive 1969 D double-die pennies. What would you do next? Would you sell it right away and secure your financial freedom? Or would you hold on to it, watching its value climb year after year as collectors compete for a dwindling supply? Here's something to think about. Rare coins like this one aren't just collectibles. They're tangible pieces of American history. Each tells a story of craftsmanship, human error, and luck. And the market for them has only grown stronger over the years. Wealthy investors and museums are paying record-breaking prices for coins once overlooked as pocket change. Why? Because in a world of digital assets and uncertainty, rare physical items, especially those tied to history, carry timeless value. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how do I find one? Here's the exciting part. You don't need to be a professional collector. Start simple. Search through your coin jars, old piggy banks, inherited collections, or boxes of change stashed away in your attic. You'd be amazed at how often treasures like this hide in the most ordinary places. And when you search, keep this checklist in mind. The date 1969, the small d mint mark below it, and the doubled letters on Liberty and in God we trust. If you spot these features, stop what you're doing. Do not clean the coin, do not polish it, and definitely do not list it online without getting it authenticated. Cleaning or mishandling it could reduce its value dramatically. Let's pause for a second. Isn't it fascinating how something so small could hold such enormous power? This penny, born out of a simple minting mistake, now represents the hope that wealth can appear when you least expect it. It's a symbol of possibility of how ordinary people can uncover extraordinary fortunes by simply paying attention. And that's where the deeper story lies. It's not just about a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's about what that coin represents: opportunity, legacy, transformation. Because the truth is, there are still undiscovered treasures out there hidden in drawers, in old coffee cans, in coin rolls at your local bank. The question is, will you be the one to find them? Let's be honest, so's people won't look. They'll think, it's just a penny, and move on. But not you. You're here because you sense something greater. You understand that wealth often hides in the details that others overlook. And in that awareness lies your edge. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. The coin collecting market is booming. Especially in the US, more collectors are entering the scene every year, driving prices to historic highs. From 1943 steel cents to 1955 doubled die errors. Rare Lincoln pennies are setting new records at auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers. The trend is clear. Rare U.S. coins are more than collectibles, they're assets. And the 1969 D penny stands near the top of that hierarchy. A crown jewel for serious investors and passionate collectors alike. But here's the part that keeps people hooked: the possibility that more of these coins are still out there, waiting to be found. Imagine the thrill of opening an old roll of pennies. The copper glint catching your eye, and realizing you've just uncovered something the world has been searching for. That's not just discovery, that's destiny. Of course, patience and research are key. Some of the biggest finds happened when people least expected it: during spring cleaning, sorting through inherited estates, or simply organizing pocket change after a grocery run. So don't underestimate the power of curiosity. The next time you handle a penny, look closely. You could be holding a piece of history and a potential fortune now. Let me ask you this. What would you do if you suddenly had $882,000 in your hands? Would you pay off debts, buy your dream home, travel the world, or start a business? It's fun to imagine, but it's also powerful motivation. Because opportunities like this don't knock twice. They hide in the everyday, waiting for the person bold enough to look. As we reach the end of this story, remember, wealth doesn't always come in grand packages. Sometimes it's small, copper, and hiding in plain sight. The 1969D Lincoln penny is proof that fortune favors the observant, and that history still rewards those who take the time to notice the details. So tonight, before you go to bed, take a moment to look through your old coins. Because maybe, just maybe, your ticket to freedom is already in your pocket. And when you find it, because someone will remember this moment, the moment you realized that a penny could be worth nearly $1 million. If this story inspired you, share it. You never know whose dusty coin jar might hold the next great discovery. Stay curious, stay watchful, and never underestimate the power of what's right in front of you. Because somewhere out there, the next $1 million penny is waiting to be found. It might just have your name written on it. Now, before we dive deep, ask yourself, when was the last time you really looked at your pennies? Not just glanced, but truly looked. Because missing this one detail could mean missing out on enough money to pay off your mortgage, travel the world, or finally live the life of freedom and wealth you've always dreamed of. Let's start at the beginning. Act 1. The Hidden Treasure in Plain Sight. Back in 1979, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln 1-cent coins. Most were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Usually, coins carry a small mint mark, a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or nothing at all for Philadelphia. But in that year, something odd happened due to a minting anomaly. A batch of 1979 pennies left the Philadelphia Mint without their expected mint mark. Even though by then, Philadelphia had begun using the P on some coin series. This subtle difference created confusion and later, massive collector interest. The result? A specific variation of the 1979 Lincoln cent, now known as the no mint mark penny. That's become a hidden gold mine for those who know what to look for. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Not every 1979 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The secret lies in condition, strike quality, and a few microscopic details that only trained eyes catch. Imagine a sea of billions of pennies, and among them, just a handful so pristine, so perfect, that collectors would bid 6 figures just to own one. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's just a penny. How could that possibly be worth nearly $1 million? Well, that's the beauty of the coin world. Rarity, condition, and demand form a perfect storm, and when those three align, values skyrocket. To understand why this tiny coin carries such a massive price tag, we need to explore what makes it special. The 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny that recently sold for $877,000 wasn't just any coin pulled from circulation. It was an immaculate, uncirculated specimen graded at the highest level by professional coin grading services. That means not a single scratch, no fingerprints, no dullness, just pure copper brilliance. Frozen in time for over 4 decades, think of it like a vintage car. Most 1979 cars have rusted away, but if someone kept one in a showroom, spotless and untouched, it's suddenly worth a fortune. Coins work the same way. Now, the story gets even better or scarier, depending on how you see it. Because most people had one of these pennies. They jingled in pockets, sat in piggy banks, or got tossed into vending machines. Millions of Americans literally spent away small fortunes without even realizing it. That's the fear that fuels collectors. The idea that you might already have held a penny worth hundreds of thousands and let it slip through your fingers. But don't panic yet. Here's the excitement. There's still a chance you have one. Many 1979 pennies are still in circulation, hidden in old jars, tucked into dresser drawers, or lying forgotten in a collection from your grandparents. If you've ever wondered whether your change could change your life, this is it. All right, quick attention reset. When was the last time a penny made you this excited? Usually, we ignore them. We drop them. We leave them in cup holders. Yet here we are, talking about one that could buy a Lamborghini. Life's funny that way. Let's keep going. The value of these rare 1979 pennies isn't just driven by luck. It's driven by demand from high-end collectors. These are people who spend hundreds of thousands on coins because they're not just buying metal, they're buying history, art, and status. Owning one of the rarest U.S. cents is like owning a piece of American mythology. And here's something most people don't realize. The coin market has exploded in the last few years. Prices for rare U.S. coins have surged as investors and collectors chase tangible assets, something real, something lasting. Inflation, uncertainty, digital currencies, all these forces are pushing people back toward precious metals and collectibles. A 1979 penny that once sold for a few thousand. Today, that same coin might fetch hundreds of thousands. Now, let's take a brief pause, a cliffhanger moment, because next, I'll reveal exactly what to look for in your 1979 pennies, including the signs that separate a common cent from a life-changing one. Ready? Let's move into Act 3, the treasure hunt. If you've got a handful of old pennies, here's what you need to do. First, grab a magnifying glass and good lighting. Flip your penny to the obverse. That's the side with Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Look just below his shoulder, near the edge. That's where you'll find the mint mark. If it's blank, no D, no S, you might be holding a Philadelphia coin. But remember, not all no mint mark coins are valuable. The key lies in condition. Look for sharp details, clear lines in Lincoln's coat, crisp lettering, and a strong rim. If the coin shines like it was minted yesterday, you might have something special next. Inspect for doubling, a slight duplication of letters or numbers caused by a die error during striking. This can multiply your coin's value several times over. The Liberty and the date 1979 are common spots for doubling. If you spot any of these, your heart should skip a beat because you could be looking at a small fortune dot. Now, let's talk about grading. Professional grading is the only way to confirm the true worth of your coin. Services like PCGs or NGC examine coins under strict conditions and assign them a grade on a 70-point scale. A mint state 67 or 68 grade could mean the difference between a $50 penny, and one worth hundreds of thousands. Here's a pro tip. Never clean your coins. I know, the instinct to make them shiny is strong, but cleaning can destroy value instantly. Collectors want originality, even if it means a little tarnish. A cleaned coin might lose 90% of its value. Think of it like restoring an antique painting. You don't want to scrub off the masterpiece. And speaking of masterpieces, the 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a perfect symbol of hidden potential. It reminds us that wealth often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. So, what's the current market like? As of now, pristine specimens have fetched up to $877,000 at auction. Even lower-graded examples can bring in hundreds or thousands of dollars. That's a staggering return on a 1-cent investment. And with the growing interest in rare coins, the ceiling keeps rising. Now, here's where excitement turns into urgency. Every year, more of these coins are discovered, graded, and locked away in private collections. Once they're gone, they're gone. The window to find one in the wild is closing fast. So, the best time to check your change is right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, ask yourself this: what if your next dollar bill comes with a penny worth a house? Are you willing to let it slip by? Or are you going to start paying attention, start looking, and maybe discover that your financial breakthrough has been sitting in your kitchen jar this whole time? Let's wrap this story with a bit of humor. You know, some people invest in stocks, others in crypto, but the smartest investors, they just check their pockets. Because who needs Wall Street when you've got Lincoln smiling up at you from $1 million penny? But all jokes aside, this story isn't just about a coin. It's about awareness, opportunity, the ability to see value where others don't. That's what separates the average from the wealthy. The everyday person sees a penny. The investor sees potential. So, as you finish this video, I challenge you, go through your coins, your old jars, your inherited collections. Take your time. Research, inspect, learn. Because somewhere in America right now, someone's about to realize that their spare change changed their life. And if you're serious about selling your coins or building wealth through rare collectibles, this is your moment. The market is hot. The demand is growing. And knowledge, your knowledge, is the key to unlocking it all. Remember, fortune doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through the clink of a small copper coin. So, what will you do? Will you keep ignoring your pennies, or will you finally start looking at them as the tiny gold mines they truly are? Because one day, when someone asks how you became wealthy, you might just smile and say, "It all started with a penny from 1979. And that's not just a story about money. That's a story about awareness, timing, and the kind of mindset that turns pocket change into prosperity. If this video sparked something in you, it's that spark of curiosity, of possibility, then you're already on your way to becoming the kind of person who doesn't just dream of wealth, but discovers it. So, check your change. Your $1 million penny might be waiting. Sounds unbelievable, right? But here's the truth. This is one of the most mysterious and valuable coins hiding in plain sight. And if you think it can't happen to you, think again. Every month, ordinary Americans discover coins they've had for decades, turning them into life-changing windfalls. So stay with me until the end of this video, because by the time we finish, you'll know exactly how to spot one of these treasures and avoid the heartbreaking mistake of spending it without realizing what you had. Let's start with a story. Back in 1980, America was a nation in transition post-Vietnam, a pre-digital, and buzzing with a new kind of energy. Gas was cheap, music was real, and the Lincoln penny was everywhere. The U.S. Mint produced billions of them, tiny symbols of trust and commerce that passed through every hand in the country. But in that year, something strange happened. A small batch of pennies left the mint, missing a critical detail, the mint mark. Normally, a letter like D for Denver or S for San Francisco would appear below the date on the coin. But these coins, they had nothing. Just the year, 1980. At first glance, it didn't seem like a big deal. But numismatists, those are expert coin collectors, immediately noticed something was off. Here's where it gets fascinating. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia didn't use a mint mark that year. So at first glance, you might think every penny without a mint mark is from Philly. But there's a catch. Some of these 1980 no mint mark coins were struck with unusually sharp details, mirror-like fields, and perfect centering signs of proof-like or error strikes that never should have left the facility. A few of them were even double die varieties, where the image and text appear slightly doubled because of a minting error, and that's what makes them so valuable. These aren't just coins, they're rare time capsules. Tiny anomalies created by accident, now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars because of their scarcity and condition. One such 1980 penny, recently authenticated by a major grading company, sold for an astounding $873,000 at auction. Imagine the shock of the owner, someone who had tucked it away decades ago, never realizing they'd been holding on to a small fortune. Now pause for a moment and think about that. How many coins have passed through your hands over your lifetime? Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. How many did you actually look at? This is where fear meets opportunity. Because for every person who discovers one of these rare coins, there are dozens who spend theirs unknowingly. They use it to pay for coffee, parking, or a vending machine snack, never realizing they just gave away their ticket to early retirement. But let's not stay stuck in fear. Let's move into action. Because you can absolutely check your collection and find out if you're sitting on something valuable. Here's what to look for. Take any 1980 Lincoln penny and hold it under a bright light or magnifying glass. Look closely below the date. If there's no D or S, you might be onto something. But that's just the beginning. Check for strong details in Lincoln's hair and beard. Examine the edges for crispness. Look at the lettering for any signs of doubling. If your coin looks unusually sharp, bright, or different from others, it's worth getting evaluated. And here's a secret the professionals know. The value of these coins isn't just about rarity, it's about condition. Coins graded MS67 or higher, meaning mint state, almost flawless, can skyrocket in value. A coin with a tiny scratch might be worth $50, but one in pristine, untouched condition, That's where you start seeing six-figure valuations. That's why collectors send their coins to professional graders like PCGs or NGC for authentication. These agencies seal your coin in tamper-proof holders and assign a grade, which can multiply its worth instantly. Now, let's connect the dots. Why are people suddenly obsessed with rare pennies? Because they represent the ultimate underdog story. Something so ordinary, so overlooked, suddenly becoming a passport to wealth. It taps into the same dream that drives lottery players and treasure hunters, but here, it's tangible. Real metal, real history, real value. And unlike lottery tickets, you already own the chance to win, you just need to look for it. But let's interrupt the seriousness for a moment, because if you're thinking, come on, it's just a penny, you're not alone. Most people feel that way. Until they see that auction price tag. It's like finding out your grandma's old cookie jar has a Picasso sketch inside it. You'd never look at it the same way again. Now, here's where the story deepens. Some experts believe these ultra-rare 1980 no-mint mark pennies were part of experimental runs or proof errors that accidentally entered circulation. They were never meant to be spent, never meant to be seen by the public. That mystery fuels their mythology. Every time a new one surfaces, it reignites the chase-like buried treasure reappearing in the modern world. So how do you cash in if you think you've got one? First, never clean your coin. That's a rookie mistake that can slash its value in half or worse. Keep it in a soft cloth or protective sleeve and get it appraised by a reputable coin dealer. Better yet, contact a professional grading service for authentication. Even a lower-grade coin could be worth hundreds or thousands. And here's something most people don't realize. You don't need to be a seasoned collector to profit. Everyday people are finding these coins in inherited collections, estate boxes, or even pocket change. The demand for vintage U.S. pennies, especially Lincoln cents, has exploded in recent years. Driven by investors, collectors, and wealthy enthusiasts chasing scarcity and nostalgia. Remember, as physical cash becomes less common in the digital age, older coins gain more historic and symbolic value. It's not just about metal, it's about a moment in time that can never be repeated. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. Why does this matter? Because this story isn't just about coins, it's about awareness. About seeing value where others see none. That 1980 penny is a metaphor for how opportunity hides in plain sight. Most people walk past it every day, distracted, doubting, disbelieving. But the ones who stop, look closer, and take action, they're the ones who win. They're the ones who turn a forgotten penny into financial freedom. And let's be honest, who doesn't dream of that moment? The one where you hold a small piece of metal in your hand, realizing it could pay off your mortgage, fund your retirement, or finally let you live that wealthy lifestyle you've always imagined. Maybe it's a vacation home by the lake. Maybe it's finally quitting your 9-to-5. Or maybe it's just the peace of knowing you're financially secure. But here's your cliffhanger. How many of these coins are still out there? Some experts estimate fewer than 50 in top condition. Others say there could be hundreds hiding in private hands, waiting to be discovered. Every year, new examples show up at auction, shattering records and proving the hunt isn't over. Which means your chance might still be waiting in that old coffee can or that forgotten piggy bank in your attic. Let's circle back to where we started. A penny, a symbol of small beginnings. A reminder that wealth often hides in the most ordinary places. The 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just a collector's item, it's a wake-up call. A call to pay attention. To recognize that sometimes fortune favors not the lucky, but the observant. And before we wrap up, let me ask you this. What if, right now, you walked over to your old coin jar, flipped through those pennies, and found one that could change your life? Would you take that chance, or would you keep scrolling, thinking it's too good to be true? Because the difference between the person who finds it and the one who misses it is simple. One decided to look, so here's what I want you to do next. After this video, grab a magnifying glass and go through your pennies. Check every 1980 coin. No mint mark. Sharp details. Hold on to it. Get it evaluated. Because your next discovery could be the start of your new wealthy chapter. And if you want to learn more about other rare coins worth thousands or even millions, subscribe now and stay tuned, because we're uncovering America's hidden treasures one coin at a time. Remember, every fortune starts somewhere. For you, it might just start with a single penny. Welcome to the story of the 1985 D-Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. It's the tiny piece of copper that could change your life. Let's start with a question. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Be honest. Most of us toss them aside, leave them in cup holders, or ignore them at the counter. But sometimes, the smallest details hide the biggest treasures. What if your financial breakthrough isn't in a business deal or a lottery ticket, but sitting in your pocket? Today, we're diving deep into the 1985 D Lincoln Cent's hidden history. The mistake that made it worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And how you can identify one of these million-dollar coins yourself before it's too late. Because here's the thing, these coins are disappearing fast. Collectors are sweeping them up, prices are rising every year, and once they're gone from circulation, they're gone forever. Now, before we get into the details, let's set the stage with Act 1, the discovery. Back in 1985, Denver Mint produced over 5 billion 1-cent coins. 5 billion. On the surface, there was nothing special about them, just the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But deep in that ocean of copper-plated zinc, a few coins came out different. A few were struck with microscopic, minting errors barely visible to the naked eye that changed everything. Imagine a coin press moving at lightning speed, stamping thousands of pennies a minute. Now imagine one slightly misaligned die, one tiny slip, one change in metal composition. That's all it takes to transform a penny worth 1 cent into a collector's dream worth hundreds of thousands. One of those 1985 D pennies showed a dramatic difference in its design. The mint mark D slightly doubled, or the details of Lincoln's face appearing sharper, thicker, or misaligned. Some even had faint doubling on the date or letters of liberty. To an untrained eye, it might look like nothing more than a worn coin. But to a numismatic expert, it's gold. Well, copper technically, but you get the point. Here's where things get interesting. For decades, these rare varieties went unnoticed. It wasn't until coin enthusiasts started scanning their change under magnifying glasses and microscopes that they began to surface. And when the first few hit the auction block, the world took notice. One of these rare 1985 D Lincoln cents reportedly fetched over $866,000 in a private sale. That's right, nearly $1 million for a single penny. Let that sink in for a second. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. Now imagine if just one of them could rewrite your financial future. But here's where most people stop. They hear the story. They get excited, then they do nothing. They assume it's too rare, too complicated, too unrealistic. But that mindset is exactly why only a few people ever find coins like these. The secret isn't luck, it's awareness. We shift from discovery to mastery, how to actually recognize the difference between an ordinary penny and one worth a fortune. First, check the mint mark. The D stands for Denver, and the mint mark placement is crucial. On the rare 1985 D, collectors have reported unusual spacing or a subtle doubling effect around the letter. Some versions even show traces of die cracks, tiny raised lines caused by aging mint dies that add to their uniqueness. Second, examine the overall strike. Does Lincoln's bust look thicker than normal? Are the letters in God We Trust, or Liberty slightly shadowed or doubled? That could signal a valuable die variety or doubling error. And third, perhaps most important, look for luster and condition. In the coin world, condition is everything. A coin graded MS67 or higher, that's mint state 67, almost perfect, can skyrocket in value. Even a tiny scratch can mean the difference between a penny worth $100 and one worth hundreds of thousands. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I don't own a magnifier, and I'm not a professional coin dealer. Here's the good news: you don't have to be. These days, even smartphone cameras can capture enough detail to identify most varieties. There are free apps, collector forums, and grading services that can guide you step by step. Here's a little humor for you: some people spend hours scrolling through social media every night, hunting for entertainment when they could be scrolling through their coin jars. Hunting for financial freedom. One brings you dopamine, the other brings you dollars. Which one sounds better? Now, let's talk psychology for a second. The idea that something ordinary could hold extraordinary value triggers something deep in us. It's the same thrill that drives treasure hunters, collectors, and investors. That moment of discovery, the realization that you found something rare's powerful, but it's also fleeting. Because once you know, you have to act. That brings us to urgency. Every year, as more people learn about these rare pennies, the competition grows fiercer. Coin shops buy them up, auctions set new records, and the few remaining in circulation get rarer by the day. The market doesn't wait for anyone. In fact, coin experts are predicting that values could climb even higher in the next decade as older collectors pass down their collections and demand outpaces supply. So, if you've ever dreamed of turning your hobby or even your spare change into serious wealth, this is your moment. This isn't just a story about a penny. It's about what that penny represents: opportunity, awareness, and the idea that wealth is often hidden in plain sight. Think about it. Every great fortune started with someone noticing something others overlooked. The early gold miners who spotted flecks in a river. The investors who saw potential in Apple when it was just a garage project. The collectors who recognized that art, stamps, or coins weren't just objects. The 1985 D. Lincoln cent is a modern-day symbol of that same principle. A reminder that wealth doesn't always come from where you expect it. It comes from curiosity, attention, and the courage to act. So, how do you act? Step 1. Gather your pennies. Seriously, check your jars, bros, glove compartments, anywhere you might have loose change. The 1985 D is the key year to look for. But don't stop there. Many other Lincoln cents from the 1970s and 1980s have similar varieties worth thousands. Step 2. Learn the basics of grading and error identification. The more you know, the more valuable your finds become. Online coin communities can help you compare images, discuss discoveries, and even connect with buyers. Step 3. Protect your coins. Never clean them. Cleaning can destroy their value. Store them in holders or flips to prevent scratches. And always handle them by the edges. And finally, step 4. Get your coins appraised by a trusted grading service like PCGs or NGC. A certified grade transforms your coin from a curiosity into a verified investment. Now, before we wrap up, let's look at what this means for you. Because this isn't just about coins, it's about mindset. We live in a world where people constantly chase quick money, get-rich-quick schemes, day trading, viral trends. But real wealth often hides in overlooked places. The rare penny, the old watch, the forgotten baseball card each tells the same story. Value belongs to those who pay attention. So ask yourself, are you overlooking something valuable in your own life? Maybe it's not a coin, maybe it's a skill, an idea, or a moment you've dismissed as ordinary. The lesson of the 1985 D penny is simple. Greatness often hides behind the everyday, and if you think this is just a feel-good story, think again. Just last year, similar Lincoln cents sold for tens of thousands of dollars on the open market. Collectors worldwide are still hunting for these rare Denver Mint errors, and prices keep climbing. The $866,000 sale wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a trend. Let's end with a thought experiment. Picture yourself a week from now. You're sorting through your change when you notice something, a tiny doubling on the mint mark. a sharper strike on Lincoln's jawline. You send it for grading, and months later, the results come back. It's genuine. You're holding one of the rarest 1985D Lincoln cents ever discovered. Overnight, your story changes. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The smallest coin in your hand becomes a symbol of possibility. That's not fantasy, it's potential. And potential is where every success story begins. So, as we close, remember this: every penny has a story, and every story has value. Don't underestimate what's right in front of you, because the next time you pick up a penny, it might just be the one that changes everything. If you found this story inspiring, don't let it end here. Take action to day-check your coins, learn their history, and start building the kind of wealth most people overlook. Because sometimes fortune doesn't knock on your door, it jingles in your pocket. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay driven, and keep searching for the treasures hidden in plain sight. Who knows, your next penny might just be worth a fortune.
They say history whispers through metal, and if you listen closely enough, it tells stories of war, sacrifice, and forgotten fortune. Imagine holding a single coin, small, copper brown, worn by time, that could be worth more than a luxury home. A 1942 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark. To most, it looks ordinary. But to those who know where to look, it's a whisper from the past, carrying a potential value of over $700,000. And, in the right circumstances, perhaps even more. Why? Because not all coins are what they appear to be. Let's start with a question, one that has haunted collectors for decades. How can something struck in the billions become priceless? The year was 1942. America was deep in the heart of World War II. Every factory was repurposed for production. Every ounce of metal counted. Copper, vital for ammunition, was being drained from the U.S. Treasury's reserves. The mint was under pressure, desperate to save materials, yet still expected to produce millions of coins for a growing wartime economy. Most of the Lincoln 1-cent coins minted that year were made of the standard bronze alloy, about 95% copper. But as the war effort intensified, an experimental frenzy began inside the mint's secretive laboratories. Plans were being tested for steel cents, plastic compositions, even glass prototypes. And in this rush of innovation, strange things began to happen. Among the countless coins struck that year, a handful, perhaps just a few, came out different. Slightly off in tone, in weight, in texture, coins that didn't quite belong. And some, like the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, have become legends, coins that shouldn't exist, yet somehow do. Collectors call them transitional anomalies. But to investors and historians, there's something much more powerful, the physical fingerprints of American history. But let's pause for a second. Before diving deeper, picture this. A man cleaning out his father's old desk finds a small cloth pouch. Inside, 10 or 12 coins, dull and brown. Among them, a single 1942 Lincoln cent, no mint mark, faintly glimmering under the light. He almost tosses it aside. Almost. But something about its weight feels different. That's how many of these discoveries begin, not in auctions or museums, but in quiet attics, dusty basements, or inherited collections where time has erased all memory of value. So, what makes the 1942 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin so desirable? First, its origin. Being struck at the Philadelphia Mint, it carries no mint mark at all, distinguishing it from its Denver or San Francisco counterparts. To the casual observer, that might seem trivial, but in numismatics, such details can mean the difference between pocket change and a small fortune. Second, the composition. Some of these 1942 cents, due to experimental minting runs and transitional die tests, were believed to have been struck on bronze planchets intended for earlier or later issues. That means, in extremely rare cases, their metal content differs ever so slightly from the standard bronze alloy. Those slight deviations, verified under metallurgical analysis, have sent collectors into bidding wars. And third, condition. The market rewards perfection. A single 1942 no-mint mark cent graded at the top of its class by PCGS or NGC can command staggering prices. In 2024, an example in pristine red-brown luster reportedly drew offers surpassing $700,000 as collectors and investors fought for a piece of the American wartime narrative frozen in copper. But it's not just about rarity. It's about emotion. Every serious collector knows that coins carry something intangible, a kind of quiet soul. The portrait of Lincoln on that cent isn't just a likeness. It's a symbol of endurance during one of America's darkest chapters. To own such a coin is to hold a relic of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of war, the nation's promise of liberty was still minted, 1 cent at a time, and that emotional power drives markets as much as any metallic scarcity. Let's take a step back. What is the psychology behind these extraordinary valuations? Collectors, especially those who've spent years hunting through rolls, auctions, and estate sales, share a secret hunger. It's not merely the pursuit of wealth, it's the pursuit of discovery. The idea that they might find, by sheer chance, a piece of history everyone else overlooked. That is the spark that keeps this market alive. When one 1942 no-mint mark cent surfaces in immaculate condition, it doesn't just sell for a high price. It rekindles hope in thousands of collectors. Somewhere out there, another could be waiting. Maybe in an old cigar box. Maybe in a forgotten coffee tin. Maybe even in your pocket change. Though the odds are slimmer than winning the lottery. But that's the beauty of this world, where odds, myths, and miracles intertwine. Here's a fascinating detail most people overlook. The Philadelphia Mint, unlike its Western counterparts, didn't stamp mint marks on cents during that period. To the government, it was standard procedure. But to collectors, it became the perfect recipe for mystery. The absence of a mark became a mark of intrigue. And when a no-mint mark coin emerges with exceptional die strikes or off-metal characteristics, the numismatic community takes notice. Authentication laboratories run spectral analysis. Specialists debate origins in private forums. Articles appear in Coin World or Numismatic News, each adding a new layer to the legend. Then, inevitably, comes the auction. Imagine the tension inside that auction hall. The lights dim, the catalog page flips, and the auctioneer begins. Lot 321, 1942 Abraham Lincoln. 1 cent, Philadelphia issue, no mint mark, exceptional red-brown preservation. Bids climb fast. 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, until at last the gavel falls. Sold for $715,000. Applause ripples through the crowd. And just like that, another chapter is written in the story of American numismatics. But here's the part most people miss. The real value of coins like this isn't only in the sale price. It's in what they represent. Scarcity born from imperfection, beauty formed in chaos. The 1942 cent embodies that paradox. It was minted during a year when America was sacrificing everything. And yet, even amid that sacrifice, something so delicate and enduring was created. Now, let's talk market trends. Because this isn't just a tale of nostalgia. It's a study in strategy. Over the past 2 decades, the market for high-grade Lincoln cents, especially from the early to mid-20th century, has surged. The generation of baby boomers who collected these coins as children are now transitioning their wealth, many seeking to leave behind legacies for their children or grandchildren. Rare coins, particularly those with historical and emotional resonance, have become not only collectibles, but vehicles of legacy preservation. Investors have begun to see what collectors have known for years. Tangible history tends to outlast market fads. Gold rises and falls. Stocks fluctuate. But a coin, a small, authentic piece of America's story, retains allure across generations. That's why, When a coin like the 1942 no mint mark Lincoln cent hits the market, it doesn't just sell, it redefines the value of the ordinary. It reminds everyone that something as common as a cent can, under the right conditions, become a symbol of national pride and generational wealth. And yet, there's a warning hidden here too. For every true rarity, there are countless replicas, counterfeits, and wishful misidentifications. The modern market is filled with stories of hopeful sellers convinced they've uncovered a fortune, only to learn their coin is just another ordinary cent. That's where experience and the guidance of certified experts becomes indispensable. Authenticity is the key that unlocks the vault of value. So if you ever come across a 1942 Lincoln cent without a mint mark, stop. Look closely, weigh it, examine its luster under a soft white light. If it gleams with an almost reddish hue or feels slightly heavier or lighter than usual, you may just be holding something extraordinary. But even if you aren't, the pursuit itself connects you to something timeless. Every collector knows the quiet thrill of possibility. That heartbeat moment before a coin flips under the magnifying glass. The glint of copper, the curve of Lincoln's shoulder, the whisper of a year that changed the world. And perhaps that's the real treasure here. Not just the coin, but the connection between past and present, between memory and ambition, a 1942 cent that survived the war, that passed through decades of hands could now sit in a velvet-lined case under museum lights. Or perhaps still rest unnoticed in someone's change jar. Somewhere, it waits, waiting for the right eyes to see it. Because in numismatics, discovery doesn't just happen once. It happens every day, quietly, to those who believe enough to look. So as you hold your next coin, whether from a dealer, a flea market, or your grandfather's collection, ask yourself this: what if this tiny disc of metal isn't just change, but a message from the past? And what if that message, after all these years, is worth not just thousands, but the chance to be part of something far greater? A legacy. That's the magic of the 1942 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin, a relic of a nation at war, a reminder that value is never just measured in dollars, but in stories and in the courage to keep searching for them. Because sometimes the smallest things carry the weight of history. And every now and then, they're worth a fortune. Why? What secret hides behind this humble copper disc? For nearly 80 years, collectors have whispered about a phantom coin, one that defies logic, history, and even metallurgy itself. But before we uncover the truth behind its staggering price, let's rewind to a time when the world was at war, and every ounce of metal mattered. The year is 1944. Factories roar day and night, churning out tanks, rifles, and ships for the final push of World War II. Copper, once used freely in coins, has become a precious commodity reserved for ammunition. In 1943, the U.S. Mint made a desperate decision: replace copper with steel. The result was the 1943 steel Lincoln cent, a silvery, magnetic coin that rusted too easily and confused Americans who mistook it for a dime. By 1944, the Mint reversed course, melting down spent shell casings to create new copper cents. But as the presses thundered and molten metal poured, a mistake occurred. A few planchets, the steel blanks from 1943, were never cleared from the minting presses. They were struck again in 1944 with the new Lincoln design. The result? A small handful of 1944 steel Lincoln cents, ghostly survivors of a mechanical oversight. Most collectors know this story. But the twist lies deeper. Because among these legitimate 1944 copper cents, a select few, with no mint mark at all, have achieved values that defy even expert prediction. When a 1944 Lincoln cent bears no mint mark, it means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, the nation's oldest and most historic minting facility. In theory, Philadelphia's 1944 cents are common. More than 1 billion were made. Yet, as collectors have discovered, not all of them are created equal. Some bear subtle differences, faint variations in strike, metal composition, or die alignment, anomalies that whisper of experimental minting, or even of transitional planchets accidentally struck during material changes. It is one of these anomalies, the so-called 1944. No mint mark transitional error coin that has rewritten numismatic history. Imagine this. A collector sorts through a jar of old coins inherited from his grandfather. Decades of dust, tarnish, and memory lie within. One coin catches the light differently. Its color just slightly off, its surface unusually bright. He nearly overlooks it, but something feels wrong. He flips it. There's no mint mark beneath the date. The weight feels lighter. He sends it for appraisal. Weeks later, the phone rings, a call that changes his life. The expert's voice trembles. "Sir, you may have just found one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever struck. That coin would later sell for over $700,000 at auction. So what makes this particular 1944? No mint mark coin worth a small fortune? It comes down to a blend of error, history, and human desire. Numismatics, the study and collection of coins, is as much about psychology as it is about metal. Collectors don't just chase coins. They chase stories. They chase the romance of history frozen in copper and steel. The feeling of holding a mistake the government never meant to make. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is king, but story is the crown. The 1944 no mint mark Lincoln cent represents both. Experts believe some Philadelphia mint coins from that year may have been struck on leftover zinc-coated steel planchets intended for 1943. That would make them transitional errors, rare hybrids of two historic minting periods. These coins, though visually similar to ordinary copper cents, have magnetic properties and a distinct silvery hue. Each one is a time capsule, a metal echo of a nation balancing war, economy, and change. But here's the part few discuss. The market for coins like these doesn't just move on supply and demand, it moves on emotion. When a story like this goes public, collectors feel a surge of rediscovery, a kind of collective treasure fever. Auction houses know this well. When a single coin like the 1944 no mint mark variant reaches headlines, bidding wars ignite. Prices soar not only for the coin itself, but for anything related to it. Even standard 1944 copper Lincoln cents begin to climb in perceived value, simply by association. It's the same psychological wave that once drove tulip mania in 17th century Holland, or the gold rushes of the 19th century, except now the gold is smaller, rounder, and often hiding in your change jar. Here's a question worth asking. How many of these million-dollar errors are still out there, quietly sitting in drawers, jars, and old purses across America? Statistically speaking, it's possible, even likely, that undiscovered examples remain in private hands. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1 billion cents that year, and error rates, though small, were never zero. And yet, finding one isn't as simple as it sounds. These coins blend in perfectly with their ordinary copper cousins. Only close examination, sometimes even laboratory testing, can confirm the composition. A faint magnetism or subtle weight difference might be the only clue separating a $700,000 coin from one worth a single cent. It's the ultimate collector's riddle. How many treasures hide in plain sight mistaken for pocket change? If you've ever wondered why collectors hold on to jars of old cents, even when the face value seems trivial, this is why. Every worn coin carries potential. Every slight imperfection could rewrite your financial story. Coin collecting, at its core, is an act of patience, a quiet rebellion against instant gratification. It's the belief that true value reveals itself over time, that history rewards the curious. And the 1944 no mint mark Lincoln cent is the perfect symbol of that belief. Let's dig even deeper into what makes this coin so psychologically magnetic to investors and historians alike. First, it represents survival through chaos. Struck in the final throes of World War II, it carries the weight of an era when the nation's resources, hope, and industry were stretched to their limits. Second, it embodies human imperfection. The U.S. Mint, known for precision, still made mistakes. Beautiful, costly mistakes. Each error coin reminds us that even great systems falter, and within those faults lies fortune. And finally, it signifies legacy. For many, collecting these coins isn't just a hobby, it's a bridge between generations. Grandfathers pass them down to grandchildren, along with stories of war, sacrifice, and simpler times. The coin becomes more than metal. It becomes memory, identity, and inheritance. Yet, there's another layer to this mystery. One that even seasoned collectors find intriguing. Some researchers speculate that a few of the 1944 no-mint mark cents may have been intentionally created by mint workers, a quiet nod to numismatic curiosity within the mint itself. While no official record confirms this, the theory adds a whisper of conspiracy, a thrill of the forbidden. It wouldn't be the first time. Throughout U.S. minting history, insiders have occasionally struck small batches of experimental coins, either for testing or, in rarer cases, for private sale. Such pieces often become legends, commanding astronomical prices decades later. So when you hold a 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, you might be holding not just a minting error, but a carefully concealed secret from within the very heart of American coinage. As of today, verified examples of these transitional error coins have fetched prices up to $712,000 in major auctions. Some remain in private collections, rarely seen, traded only among elite investors who treat them like rare art. But the fascination isn't limited to their financial value. It's also what they represent, the possibility that value itself can hide in plain sight, that a coin worth 1 cent to most could be worth more than a house, a car, even a lifetime of wages, and that somewhere out there, someone may already have one, tucked inside a childhood piggy bank, lying unnoticed in a box marked old change. There's something poetic about that. In a world obsessed with the newest, the fastest, the digital, this story reminds us that the past still holds secrets, that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't mined or minted, they're discovered. The next time you come across an Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from 1944, take a closer look. Hold it under the light, feel its weight, listen to that quiet whisper of history, because perhaps, just perhaps, what you're holding isn't just a coin. It could be the key to a fortune, a legacy, a story that outlasts you. So, what will you do the next time you find a 1944 Lincoln cent without a mint mark? Will you spend it without a thought? Or will you listen to that whisper? Because somewhere, hidden among billions of coins, lies another one. Another 1944 no mint mark cent waiting to be found. And the person who discovers it won't just be richer in dollars. They'll be richer in history, in story, in the timeless thrill of uncovering America's hidden treasures. The next great coin might already be in your hands. Look closer. This isn't a myth. It's the true heartbeat of American numismatics, a world where history, metal, and chance intertwine to create legends hidden in plain sight. So, before you dismiss the next Lincoln cent you see resting in your change, ask yourself, what if your next coin isn't just a coin? What if it's a key, a ticket, to a piece of American legacy worth more than gold? In the years following World War II, America's minting presses were alive with rhythm, producing billions of Lincoln 1-cent coins, each bearing the enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner decades earlier. Yet, in 1950, something subtle began to shift in Denver. Mint technicians, dealing with worn dies and imperfect adjustments, produced a handful of coins that defied the uniformity of mass production. Most Americans never noticed. A cent was just a cent, a sliver of copper tossed into a pocket spent without thought. But hidden among them were anomalies, mistruck planchets, double-die obverses, and even variations in mint marks so faint that only a jeweler's loupe could reveal their secrets. Collectors call it the invisible lottery, where the prize is locked not in paper or ink, but in metal and history. By the 1950s, the Denver Mint was producing over 334 million Lincoln 1-cent coins, an enormous output. Yet among these, the fabled 1950D anomaly began to whisper through numismatic circles. It wasn't a single type of error. Rather, it was a perfect storm of microscopic imperfections, some with doubled digits in the date, others with slightly misplaced mint marks, and a few struck on planchets of the wrong composition. At first, no one paid attention. Dealers dismissed them as curiosities worth pennies. But decades later, as coin grading technology advanced and professional authentication reshaped the market, something extraordinary happened. Collectors began to rediscover these coins, realizing that the smallest of imperfections could transform the value from 1 cent to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's where it gets fascinating. The Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the Denver Mint, 1950D, isn't rare because of how many were made. It's rare because of how few survived in flawless condition. Copper as a metal tarnishes and oxidizes easily. Most coins from that year were circulated heavily, losing their luster, gaining scratches, and fading into anonymity. But those that remained pristine, untouched, sealed away in coin rolls or mint sets, became relics of a vanishing standard, the kind of perfection that the modern world seldom preserves. Numismatists speak of such pieces with reverence. An uncirculated 1950D Lincoln 1 cent in MS-67. Red condition, the kind of grade where every curve of Lincoln's profile shines with mirror-like brilliance, is one of the most coveted prizes in coin collecting. Why? Because perfection in copper is as fleeting as youth, and like all fleeting things, it becomes priceless when time fails to destroy it. Now imagine the moment of discovery. A collector at a local coin show, flipping through a forgotten binder of cents sold for bulk prices, pauses on a 1950D. The color catches his eye, a deep crimson glow untouched by time. He feels something, intuition perhaps. He pays a few dollars, sends it for grading, and waits. Weeks later, the envelope arrives, sealed, official. Inside, certification of MS-67 red, population less than a dozen known examples. Estimated market value, $704,000. Can you picture the silence in that moment? The realization that something once deemed worthless could carry within it a fortune? That's not luck. That's knowledge, patience, and the courage to look closer when everyone else looks away. But the allure of coins like the 1950D Lincoln 1 cent isn't just monetary, it's psychological. For collectors, every coin represents a fragment of history and an echo of personal ambition. It's not about chasing wealth. It's about holding something eternal. Coins are witnesses. That single copper piece might have been minted when Truman was president, when televisions flickered black and white across American living rooms, when a gallon of gas cost 27 cents. It may have traveled through the hands of a soldier returning from Korea or a child buying candy at a corner store. Each nick, each shine, each preserved edge tells a story. And when that story ends up in your hand, the past becomes tangible, real. That emotional link is what drives collectors to search, to protect, and to pass down their treasures as legacies. Yet beneath the poetry lies strategy. Today's market for rare Lincoln 1-cent coins is evolving rapidly. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have seen explosive growth in bids for top-grade specimens, especially those certified by PCGS or NGC. Modern investors, many of whom once saw coins as dusty relics, now view them as micro-assets, portable, stable, and historically backed. A 1950D cent in near-perfect condition offers not just nostalgia but scarcity economics. With only a handful known to exist in such grades, demand continues to outpace supply. And when emotion meets scarcity, markets ignite. It's the same psychology that drives fine art, rare whiskey, or vintage cars. Except here, the entry cost began at 1 cent. But let's pause for a moment. What truly separates a casual collector from a visionary? It's not just the coins they buy, it's the stories they learn to see within them. Many new collectors chase headlines, hunting for the million-dollar penny they saw online. But seasoned numismatists know the deeper truth. Every great find begins with curiosity, not greed. They study die varieties, strike qualities, and minting irregularities. They know that Denver's 1950 production lines used multiple die pairs, and that slight shifts in punch alignment could produce microscopic variations. They understand how storage affects copper tone, how a coin stored in paper for 70 years develops a deep chocolate hue, while one sealed in a dry, oxygen-free environment retains its fiery red brilliance. They don't just collect coins. They collect stories hidden in metal. There's also something deeply American about this pursuit. The Lincoln 1 cent is not merely currency, it's a symbol of resilience. First struck in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's centennial, it became the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. Through wars, recessions, and social revolutions, it remained constant, a humble emblem of endurance, and the Denver Mint, marked by that small D, carries its own mystique. Founded during the gold rush to process ore from the Rockies, the Denver facility became a pillar of Western prosperity. Every coin stamped with its mark carries a whisper of that frontier spirit, the belief that hidden value waits for those bold enough to seek it. Now, here's a question worth pondering. If coins could speak, what would they say about us? Would they talk about our obsession with value, or our yearning for permanence in a world that moves too fast? The truth is, collecting isn't just about possession, it's about connection. The moment you hold a rare coin, you're connected to everyone who touched it before you, everyone who overlooked it, and everyone who will one day inherit it. It's an unbroken chain of curiosity stretching across generations. That's why great collectors don't simply buy coins. They curate legacies. They understand that a Lincoln 1 cent from 1950D isn't just metal, it's meaning. It's a small, silent artifact of American ingenuity and imperfection. And perhaps that's why, in a world of digital currency and disposable wealth, the value of tangible artifacts is rising. When everything exists on screens, holding something real, solid, historical, and beautifully flawed, feels revolutionary. The market recognizes this emotional power. Each year, we see more investors shifting from abstract assets to tangible ones. Rare coins, classic watches, historic documents. These are the items that speak to permanence, to heritage, to the timeless human need to own a story. So when a coin like the 1950D Lincoln 1 cent reaches valuations above $700,000, it's not just a number, it's a collective recognition of that story's power. Still, one question lingers in every collector's mind. Could another such coin be out there? Numismatists believe it's possible, perhaps even likely. Somewhere, tucked away in an old cigar box or forgotten jar, another pristine example might rest unnoticed. And with grading standards and collector enthusiasm climbing each year, its discovery could rewrite the record books once again. That's the thrill, the intoxicating possibility that the next treasure is already within reach. So, the next time you hold an Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin from the Denver Mint 1950, take a moment, feel the weight. Look closely at the details, the mint mark, the texture, the sheen of copper. Ask yourself, what stories has this coin witnessed? What secrets might it hold? Because in the world of rare coins, the greatest fortunes aren't always found, they're recognized. And those who train their eyes to see beyond the surface, who study history, who follow intuition, often find themselves rewarded not just with wealth, but with wonder. In the end, the legend of the 1950D Lincoln 1 cent isn't a tale of luck. It's a mirror of the collector's spirit, patient, curious, and undaunted by time. It reminds us that greatness often hides in the ordinary, and that the smallest pieces of metal can hold the largest stories of value, legacy, and meaning. So, as you sift through your coins tonight, remember this simple truth. Every fortune begins with attention, and perhaps, just perhaps, the next coin that glints under your light could be the one history forgot, waiting for you to rediscover it. 1 cent at a time.